Hi, this is Mohit. Today we're going to talk about the nuclear fusion revolution. Right. So this news is probably going to go under the radar, and but this is like something which needs to be considered a significant event in history. So, what is nuclear fusion? Well, we the latter half of the 20th century that nuclear is be the it is going to give us abundant energy, right? But then Chernobyl happened and people started taking like, okay, they started going away from nuclear power plants. So many think that the nuclear power plants are going to be thing of the past, but regardless, like what the energy that nuclear power can produce is going to be much more efficient and like much more safer for the environment than the coal that we burn to produce power. Uh, so, what's the difference between nuclear fusion and nuclear fission? Is that nuclear fission is about uh, sending an atom to break apart another atom, like an electron. I'm sorry, like whatever it is. It's fission means to break apart. When that atom is broken apart, there's a massive amount of energy released, and there are a couple of byproducts, which is the nuclear waste is nuclear waste. So this nuclear waste is much harmful, and if there's a meltdown that happens in the nuclear reactor, then you have a problem, like a huge problem, like Chernobyl levels, Fukushima level problem. So what is nuclear fusion? Nuclear fusion, on the other hand, is when like you have two different isotopes of hydrogen and they come together to give you water and helium and also massive amounts of energy. Like you make like a tiny sun. Basically, how the sun functions in the solar system is through nuclear fusion. Now, nuclear fusion has been theoretically possible according to physicists for a long time, and it's like a running joke in the scientific community that nuclear fusion is about like 20 years from now, 29 years from now, stuff like that. So it may sound like this is just another one of those hype machines, right? Like, hey, like we are closer to nuclear fusion. So this venture is remarkably expensive, and it's like you got to spend a lot of money, but the takeaway or the payoff out of this is unlimited energy. Like you have basically bottled a sun, and it sounds thoroughly implausible, right? A technology that could replicate the chemistry of the stars, and it can unleash nearly unlimited clean energy and safely power the world for centuries. I'm reading from a Bloomberg op-ed, like an opinion piece. It's called "Get Ready for the Nuclear Fusion Revolution," and like this will give you like a summary of what's been going on, and will tell you what this means. So scientists at the National Ignition Facility, part of the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, announced that they had produced about 10 quadrillion watts of fusion power after blasting a hydrogen capsule with an array of laser beams. The burst lasted a fraction of a second, but it offers significant new evidence that harnessing fusion energy could one day be feasible. So it's just out of our reach, and apparently they produced about 70% of the energy out of doing this experiment. Like the amount of energy they spent to like do the experiment, they got a 70% of energy back, which is like not as efficient and not commercially viable yet. But so as the article is like, celebration isn't in order just yet, of course, and the hype has plagued this field for decades. Okay, and we'll solve the remaining challenges to a workable reactor, but they are like pretty daunting. It's like the most difficult problem, and of course, the brightest minds are put into making this because there's a healthy competition going on. Americans are making it. There's another in France, and incidentally, India is providing them parts for the reactor. So it's going to be very interesting, like what the world is going to look like when fusion reactors are like up and running. So there's another group of scientists who do not go behind like the new laws of physics or the new thinking of physics, and he came up with like his own physics system, like based on classical physics, like maybe the Newtonian models, and that's where the cold fusion part comes from. Like You may have heard of cold fusion in like this old 80s movie, 90s movie in Val Kilmer, like where he's trying to like negotiate with a scientist who has discovered cold fusion. And so cold fusion is like this hard science fiction concept, but we never know, right? Like what is required in this sector is like we need to have more private players in the game, and we need like some new players who can like do something, or come together and make like an index fund sort of thing where they can cut their losses if this doesn't work. But the payoff is huge though. Like if you can make this work right, it's like it's going to change the nature of the game. Like the universe basically deals with energy as a currency, and harnessing fusion could one day mean an effectively limitless energy source. It could produce no long-term waste, emit no greenhouse gases, and pose no risk of meltdowns. So President Joe Biden's goal, right, is that we reach net zero emissions by 2050, and that doesn't sound implausible. That's the whole point of coming up with coming up with ambitious goals is one thing, but if you read the data is that the technology is progressing in such an exponential rate that whatever these like out of the world goals that you're setting for yourself, as long as you are making it out of data and you're finding a way to like back it up with research, then you have a really good chance of victory. So it's going to be a very complex challenge, of course, in the coming years. But it's going to be very exciting to see what's going to happen, because see, why I say the private sector need to be involved is because the federal funding in the US for domestic fusion research has declined by 40%. So in the last 4 decades, and this like if private players come into this, the competition that would come out of this, it's going to be insane. Like we probably would get it much faster. So we like how SpaceX is collaborating with NASA, like maybe something like someone probably would collaborate, produce a fusion reactor, and it's just a matter of like personally, I may sound like an optimist, naive optimist, even without who doesn't have enough anything to evidence to back it up. But I'll go out on a limb here and put my neck out there. I think we are going to see a nuclear fusion reactor in by 2050, like how Biden is saying that we'll go net zero, like in the US. And I don't think once it's not so naive of me to think that once US goes net zero, like the other countries won't follow. It's like we will be able to, because technology is being spread out much faster than before. We saw the iPhone in 2007. We already started seeing the iPhones almost instantaneously by 2008 to 9. And fusion energy will be like no exception. And fusion energy, like amid these dreary headlines, and if governments lend support where they should, maybe there is like a real cause for hope. And I recommend you check this article out. And this is me, like an total amateur, like getting super excited about this. And I will keep making more videos about where this goes. So thank you for watching. If you did, see ya.